fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. God's not dead, he's surely alive.
Good morning and welcome to the King's Report. This Friday, September 15th, 2017, 8th year of Cheonggi, 7th month, 25th day by the heavenly calendar. I'm your host, Hyung Yusho Moon, 2nd King of Cheongguk. Let's first go to Tim, the Agent Elder, for our AccuWeather forecast. Tim.
Good morning. We have our usual dense fog this morning in the Cheongguk area. It's 62 degrees, a little bit cooler than yesterday morning at this time, but still above normal for this time of year. We're looking for a high of 78 today, so we're still having that southerly flow of wind coming up there. And it's possible that we'll have showers sometime today, but mostly be variable clouds throughout the day. I want to, this is kind of also a weather story that with the Irma recovery going on, a lot of people in Florida are suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning from their improper use of generators because they're out of power, and so they went out and bought generators, prior to the storm, which is good. But they didn't really learn how to use them, and so, for example, some people are operating generators in their homes or garages or other closed spaces, and some people are dying as a result of carbon monoxide poisoning. Resulting from the improper use of generators, and others are being taken to hospital for carbon monoxide poisoning. So it's important to not just to buy the generator, but also to learn how to use it.
Very good point. Now, there's also some storms brewing in the Atlantic, is that? That's also one of the stories up here on Drudge.
Yeah, Jose has been out there for a while, but it's a weak storm. And I think brewing in the Atlantic, the hurricanes that hit the United States that generally come off the western African coast. They often form, these systems form over the African landmass and then come off the coast into the Atlantic Ocean and make their way and gradually grow into hurricanes as they come towards the Caribbean. So yeah, we're still in hurricane season, so yeah, there's still some of them out there, yeah.
There you go. Alrighty, folks. Let's go now to our Rima for today. Move this out just a bit. And our Rima is in Luke 24. Oh, it's interesting. I opened to like totally the last pages of the scriptures today. It's like I was in Mark 16, and then I just did that scripture the other day, so I jumped for it again and then went to Luke 24, like just exactly the ends of the Gospels. So very interesting.
We're in the end times.
We are in the end times as we are truly experiencing. We're in chapter 24, verse 44. Then he said, when I was with you before, I told you that everything written about me in the law of Moses and the prophets and in the Psalms must be fulfilled. Then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures and said, yes, it was written long ago that the Messiah would suffer and die and rise from the dead on the third day. It was also written that this message would be proclaimed in the authority of his name to all nations, beginning in Jerusalem. There is forgiveness of sins for all who repent. You are witnesses of all these things. And I will send the Holy Spirit just as my Father promised. But stay here in the city until the Holy Spirit comes and fills you with power from heaven. Then Jesus led them to Bethany, and lifting his hands to heaven, he blessed them. While he was blessing them, he left them and was taken up to heaven. So they worshipped him and then returned to Jerusalem filled with joy. And they spent all of their time in the temple praising God. So this is the ending scene in Luke 24. And then of course it says how the disciples, notice how at the end of this chapter, or this angle of the Gospels, the disciples are into Jerusalem. Look at that. The ending shot, so to speak, is Jesus taken up to heaven. They worship him and they return to Jerusalem, and they're filled with great joy. So the ending shot, so to speak, it's the disciples have just met Jesus, who've just been elevated into heaven, and then they worship him. Then they return to Jerusalem. They go to the temple where the Pharisees were persecuting Jesus, and then they praise God, and that's the ending scene. So this is them, the disciples, now back in Jerusalem, praising God in the temple in Jerusalem, now ready to proselytize the world. You see that? And if you saw that in terms of a movie scene or in terms of a cinematographic scene, it would be the disciples now facing Jerusalem to then preach the gospel to Jerusalem. Okay? Now, juxtapose this with Mark 16, where he tells the disciples, go into the world and preach the good news to everyone. Anyone who believes is baptized will be saved, but anyone who refuses to believe will be condemned, etc. Then he says, you'll be protected. He's taken up into heaven. And the disciple went everywhere and preached. And the Lord worked through them, confirming what they said by many miraculous signs. See, so in the Gospel of Mark, he doesn't specifically say they went into Jerusalem and to transform Jerusalem. He said they went everywhere. They dispersed. So that kind of scene. Now that doesn't mean that these two authors are saying something different, right? If you have a crime scene and one witness says, "Oh, I saw this guy pull up in a car, and he went in, kicked down the door, and rummaged around the house and then came out and then ran away," right? You have one guy who says that. Then you have another guy that says, well, I saw a guy pull up in a blue car, right? Mm-hmm. I saw him mangle the lock. I saw him run inside. I saw the light switches turn on and off. I heard screaming from the inside. And then I heard the guy come out. He fell down and he picked up a sewer lid and jumped down the sewer. Now, it doesn't mean those two eyewitnesses since it doesn't mean those two eyewitnesses saw two different things. You see what I'm saying? Their accounts were a little divergent, such as the blue car detail. The first guy maybe didn't have the blue car detail. But, of course, the general story of the accounts of these two people is the same. This guy came with a car. This guy knocked in the house, somehow got in the house. The guy rummaged around inside. And then he ran away. One guy may have seen a little more detail with him running away into a sewer pipe, whereas the other guy saw him running away into the night. That doesn't mean both of them were making up two different stories. You see what I'm saying? And this is the problem with the stupid Harvard scholars and stuff like that. And the atheistic scholars. They try to say, look, there's divergence in the scriptures. Look, there's different accounts. Look, there's all these conflicts in the synoptic gospels, which is not true. When you do the analysis of, quote, the conflicts, you discover, you find, that over 95% of the, quote, disparities are minor details. There's nothing to do with the gospel message, nothing to do with the divinity of Christ, nothing to do with his resurrection and ascension to heaven. Has nothing to do with that. They are not the central cores of the gospel passion narrative. They are disparities such as, and in this gospel, the account says, and Jesus said, etc., etc., etc. In this account, it said, and the Lord said, this, that. See? One gospel said Jesus said it, one gospel said the Lord said it. You see? These are minor differences given by different eyewitnesses who've seen the same event, but are just recounting it not in the exact same way because they're different people who saw the event or who discovered the event. Luke, of course, a a physician, look at this, was sent by many people set out to write accounts about the events that have been fulfilled amongst us. They use eyewitness words circulating amongst us from the early disciples, having clearly investigated everything from the beginning. I also have decided to write an account for you, most honorable Theophilus. And Theophilus was a Roman. Here we go. Luke is a physician. So it's reasonable to expect that a man so learned and attentive to fine points would fill in details that other Gospels writers omit. Maybe that's why it's only Luke's Gospel that relates the famous parable of the Good Samaritan, while other Gospels faithfully report Jesus' affirmation of the great commandment, to love God with all our hearts and to love our neighbors as ourselves. Luke is the only one to describe Jesus' answer to the follow-up question, who is my neighbor? Dr. Luke's historical account of Jesus' life is the first of two books that explain how, when, why, and where Jesus' followers became a force to be reckoned with. As a Greek Christian, not among the first wave of converts, he seems hungry to discover the backstory of Jesus' transformational power. He becomes a travel companion and friend to Paul, one of the most fascinating, influential leaders of the church. The sequel to Luke's Gospel is the Book of Acts, a unique account of how Jesus' church was birthed and spread to the Roman Empire. Both the Gospel of Luke and Book of Acts reveal a research-heavy style that differs from the wordy theologian Matthew, the just-the-facts style of Mark, or the up-close and personal bent of John. You see, because there are slight disparities in the Gospel doesn't mean the Gospels are conflicting and telling different stories, which they're not. 95% of the disparities are tiny, tiny little things, irrelevant to the core of Christian theology, irrelevant to the passion narrative, which is the cross narrative, irrelevant to the ascension and resurrection narrative. Okay? So this is a very important issue. Okay? Luke putting in that detail that they didn't just go everywhere. They, in this scene, went back to Jerusalem. And then, of course, we know from Jerusalem they spread out to everywhere. You see what I mean? A little more detail because he was a doctor and a physician. So that understanding for believers is a very important understanding to understand the context of the Synoptic Gospels and the Gospels themselves. They are not conflicting issues. They are simply recounts of a little more detail, a little personal, up and personal close with John, a little more detail with Luke the physician, a little more sort of bare bones, minimalistic with Mark's account. Matthew a little more wordy, a little more expressing, remembering some of the Old Testament quotes that Jesus would speak about. Okay? These are different accounts, not that they're different stories. Different accounts of the same story with their own personalities and own emphases being highlighted. That doesn't mean God was not using each one of them. God was using them to write the account. So we have the narrative, and having this, the four accounts have the enriching aspect of enriching one another. Okay? Very important to understand, especially when you're dealing with atheists and those who are, quote, trained in historical critical method, which is not really critical in that sense. It's just critical in the sense that they want to relativize the nature of Scripture. And that's why they've been losing the debate against the theists who are saying, no, when we actually do the statistical analysis, the big problem that the scholars of academias or academies purport to say that there is a weak argument because they are non-relevant disparities. So we must understand this issue with the, quote, Gospels, the different Gospel accounts. And Christ says here, "And now I will send the Holy Spirit, just as my Father promised. But stay here in the city until the Holy Spirit comes and fills you with power from heaven." Now, it is important to understand the Holy Spirit is not a female God. God's primary nature is Hyeongsang Seongsang, internal nature, external form. But really, Hyeongsang Seongsang Seongsang especially has a very deep internal characteristical consciousness and emotive aspect that's all combined in that. Consciousness, I mean an intellect, a rational mind. All the things we associate with consciousness are in that, what we call Seongsang. Heart, emotion, intellect, will. All those things. In the Korean, when you say Seongsang or Hyeongsang, it's talking about internal aspect, external form of the same God. So the secondary characteristics are the dual characteristics of God. There's masculine, there's feminine. Obviously, God is masculine because he's dominantly the Father. But that doesn't mean men who are masculine don't have a feminine side. But I may have a feminine side, but that doesn't make me a woman. That is not my primary characteristic. Does that make sense? And it certainly doesn't mean that I'm two people. So there's a problem with, of course, the family fraud and these kind of goddess theology craving worshipers who want to worship a goddess because they're archangelic and they're fallen, and don't want to accept God as the Father. Because they don't want to see and understand that God is the masculine dominant subject partner. And they don't want to understand from God's perspective that he wants women as his bride to be his object partner in love. And they're seeing it from a perspective, oh, if God is masculine and he's a father, then that's unfair because there's no representation of a mother. No, Eve was to be the mother. The human being, Adam, God dwelling in Adam's body, was to relate with Eve and to be the mother. The partner which God desired and which the partner which God wanted to interact and have relationship. Okay? So Holy Spirit, in that sense, of course, is playing a objective role to God. God is sending his Spirit, sending his Holy Spirit to work with the disciples, to fill the disciples. But this is not a separate God, nor is it a separate angel, nor a separate thing from God. nor is it a separate entity in his primary characteristics, which then, of course, leads to ditheism. As the Bible says, it proceedeth forth from the Father. The Son proceeds forth from the Father. The Holy Spirit proceeds forth from the Son, who is one with the Father, you see. They are connected. When some male person or some man goes to the spirit world and his spirit is met, his spirit comes back and for example, his wife sees his spirit. That doesn't mean that his spirit is his feminine characteristic. You see? But the spirit of the man is playing a role representing that man. Obviously, this metaphor is not perfect because he's not God, and God is a transcendental being beyond both the earthly and physical world. Physical and spiritual worlds. But you get the point. That Holy Spirit represents God. But it plays a feminine, so to speak, motherly role in the church because it was not Jesus in the flesh. It's not in the flesh, right? It is a spirit which is unseen. And like Jesus said, when you see the Father, when you see the Son, you see the Father. It's not like actually meeting and touching Jesus in the flesh. But it is a comforter, a representative of God, a reflection of God, to be there to comfort the church, to put the arms around the church like the hen puts around the chicken, the chicks, till Christ returns. Okay? But it is not a separate God. That leads to ditheism. That leads to the destruction of monotheism. So Christ is talking about these things. The Holy Spirit then, as the interim representative of Christ and God, or the Paraclete, the Comforter, is now sent by Christ to be with the faithful. Then Jesus led them to Bethany, and lifting his hands to heaven, he blessed them. When he was blessing them, he left and was taken up to heaven, worshipped him, and then returned to Jerusalem filled with joy. And spent all their time in the temple praising God. So when we experience Father's Holy Spirit, and we feel the protection and comforting of the Holy Spirit, inside the Holy Spirit, it is not a separate feminine God. Okay. But the Holy Spirit is playing a objective role in communicating with us, in relating, in allowing us to feel God's power, while at the same time, Father still is in spirit world as the King. Does that make sense? Primary characteristics. 형상 성상. Secondary characteristics. Dual characteristics. Very important. Lest we fall into the heresy of multiple gods and ditheism, of course, which is Satanism. We'll be right back after the short break. Stay with us on the King's Report.
I'm down here at the range today. I just learned a new technique from the father of the .44 Magnum, Elmer Keith, which is called shooting out of the notch, which allows you to make really long distance shots and still have an extremely precise sight picture. So I brought my CW9 car down, and with this little gun, we're gonna shoot this little munchkin at 200 yards up in the hills, applying this technique, and hopefully we'll make the shot. To apply this technique, instead of using the blade of the front sight lined up with the top of the rear sight, I'm going to take the dot of the front sight and raise it up so that it's out of the notch, but I'm still going to keep the front sight on my target. Bringing that front sight up like that is going to compensate for the bullet drop over that excessively long distance with just this little gun. So if applied right, we should be making contact. Let's see how it goes. I saw this shot, so I'm a little bit out of breath because you gotta run to make sure that that is what I thought it was, and it was. So while making this shot, from that distance with these white dot sights, it literally would cover the entire target. You couldn't see what you were shooting. So using the Elmer Keith technique, you were able to raise it out of the back notch, I can't breathe, out of the back notch, allowing you to keep your accuracy, aim, and also still see the target, which is key because it was a hard shot, not gonna lie. But yeah, it went great, and Elmer knows what he's talking about. And for such a small gun to be able to take that hit, I'm very impressed with this. All right, guys, be sure to like and share, and I'll see you out on the range. That was awesome. Hey, can I try that one? Yeah, let's see with the 380. Does everybody have eyes and ears?
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report this Friday, September 15, 2017. We're going now to headline news. And of course, very serious issues again. We're going to cover the story on another missile that has been fired by North Korea over Japan. The terrifying alerts and consequences that has happened, that is now evoking. Now that's something, we'll cover that just in a bit. Also, in other top news, Trump has approved or buying into the DACA, or the quote, the Dreamers Act. Let's go to this Breitbart article on 9 lies about DACA Trump is buying into. Since Trump's reversal on an Obama-created temporary amnesty program and his reported permanent amnesty deal making with Democrats on the issue, the administration is now touting the success of those illegal aliens. Via Twitter, Trump praised the almost 800,000 illegal alien recipients of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival programs, saying they're good, educated, and accomplished young people, but failing to mention some of the key points on the issue that he often brought to light during the 2016 presidential election. Now Trump seems to be buying into a handful of untruths about DACA, amnesty for illegal aliens, and his working class, middle class voter base. This, of course, all happening at the same time that Trump is completely surrounded now by globalist, centralist generals who are part of the military-industrial complex, who need wars to justify their existence and positions, who are really more politicians than they actual are warrior fighters, minus, foot soldiers on the ground. I mean, as like foot soldiers on the ground. So these are some of the 9 untruths that Trump is buying into, which the author is pointing out. Number 1, all DACA recipients are innocent young people. There have been 2,139 DACA recipients deemed dreamers by the Open Door lobby, who have had their temporary protected status revoked due to crimes including a felony criminal conviction, a significant misdemeanor conviction, multiple misdemeanor conviction, gang affiliation, or arrest of any crime in which there is deemed to be a public safety concern, according to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Agency. The majority of crimes by DACA recipients include alien smuggling, assaultive offenses, domestic violence, drug offenses, DUI, larceny and theft, criminal trespass and burglary, sexual offenses with minors, that's pedophilia, other sex offenses, and weapons offenses, USCIS has stated. So these are not all innocent young people. Number 2, signing the DREAM Act will make Trump more popular and expand his coalition. That's an untruth, okay? They're pointing out untruths. A possible untruth being told to Trump by his pro-DACA advisors is that Hispanic illegal aliens protected by DACA will eventually become supporters of the president if they're given amnesty. But as Pew Research shows, Hispanic vote overwhelmingly with Democrats. More than 30% of Hispanics identify with the Democratic Party, and 23% said they lean towards the Democrats. Meanwhile, a tiny 4% said they identify with Republicans, and only 15% said they lean towards the GOP. 3, the Trump base will forget about amnesty. There seems to be a misconception that the Trump base of supporters will simply move on from an amnesty for DACA recipients. This seems incredibly unlikely, as Pew Research shows 79% of Trump supporters have said the issue is very important to them. Bloomberg reporter Sahil Kapoor pointed out after Trump's initial caving on DACA that there was an immediate flaw in the president's strategy, as immigration remains a key tenet to supporters of the America First agenda. Top story on Drudge is that Trump supporters are burning MAGA hats because they're so angry that Trump is backing away and turning on their back, turning his back to them by supporting this DACA Act, which is an Obama and, of course, globalist system. Maureen LaCour, additionally, the least likely of Trump's base to forget about the amnesty deal would be the angel moms and angel dads who've had their children killed by illegal aliens and DACA recipients. Maureen LaCour, whose brother was murdered by illegal alien, told Breitbart News, if Trump's trying to make a deal, he needs to sit down and talk to us about it, because he more than once looked us in the eye and told us that our family members didn't die in vain. The DACA children aren't children anymore, and they've had enough time to work on getting citizenship if that's what they really wanted. I'm not into let's make a deal. This isn't a game show here. And all this is happening. Trump is starting to change his policies. He's starting to mumble his words at around 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. And this is all happening right at the same time. The reports are coming out. Mainstream reports. Mainstream quote media reports. Washington Post, New York Times, you name it. All the fake stream news that is reporting the fact that Keith Schilling, top security head, has been removed. This person is the first person Trump sees when he wakes, last person he sees when he sleeps. And so his real bodyguard that's been with like 20 or 30 years, from before the presidential era, Trump's presidential era, and just as a businessman, from the NYPD, but then worked as a personal bodyguard for Trump, trusts Trump, knows him, is a friend of Trump, and protects him with his life, has also been removed by General Kelly and the 3 generals that now surround him. Of course, we know McMaster is the one colluding with George Soros, having daily communication with him, that's Israeli intelligence, and of course, having worked for a George Soros-funded non-profit organization. So the connections to Soros are deep with McMaster. But of course, the one who broke this story, Roger Stone, and of course, raising a great alarm in the liberty community for the danger that Trump is in now, and that the fact that he's slurring his words and being sounding completely not only exhausted, but sounding very strange. There's a man who has extremely high energy, extremely high work schedule, extremely addicted to, like a workaholic. So they see his energy is starting to fade. His vitality is starting to fade as the swamp sucks him in. And as now the generals have surrounded him, generals all being parts of swamp, they're one of the high echelons of the swamp. And of course, this is why the international bankers love big government and big militarized governments, because you can have a whole elite class of generals who are not like foot soldiers, but who are actually going out and fighting on warfare. But they're more like politicians whose primary work is to be a command post, central commanding agency that the politicians can use to control the other military forces. Infantry, specialists, connections with the Assassins Guild, you name it. Intelligence gathering, parts of the military, you name it. So it's not like ancient history where the generals would actually go out and fight with the people on the battlefield. The modern generals are not going out and fighting in these wars. They're sending the infantry, they're sending the young people, they're sending kids to the regular American kids and our kids to die. And they play the role of more politician. 3 of the generals now colluding with one another to isolate Trump, even his family having to get permission from him, quoting, saying that it's national security. And Master being caught at a dinner with Katz, the president of Oracle, saying that Trump is a bumbling idiot, essentially, and saying that he'll do everything to stop him, Trump. This is coming from a person who is right there in the top advisory committee with Mattis and Kelly. And Trump has a soft spot for the military because he respects our veterans and servicemen and women. But then this becomes a huge blind spot because he thinks the generals are the same makeup as the normal cadet or soldier which is supporting Trump and which is a blue-collar base. Whereas these generals have become elitists. So Trump is starting to smell like a neocon, to smell like the swamp. And of course, that is having Trump supporters very antsy now. Many of them unawares of the bombshell news Roger Stone, who speaks to Trump every week, exposed last week to save the president because he feels the president's life is under threat. That he's being slowly medicated, or in what Chinese history would call slowly poisoned, to either look sick, look senile, or look weak. Because a weak and sickened president and emperor is easier to control. This is a strategy of warfare that Sun Tzu even talked about, or that of course understood, and of course that Chinese history is plagued with. It's an ancient old strategy to get control of a centralized emperor head, which of course the American president has become. It's not supposed to be that, according to our founding fathers' documents, but it's become a basically imperial position with an imperial hegemonic empire that spans over this world. So it's become an imperial position, basically, when you compare it to the ancient Roman or Chinese periods. It's not supposed to be like that, but it's become that. Unfortunately. And so you see this. And so Roger Stone, who himself was poisoned with plutonium, is strongly suggesting to the liberty community that his gravest fears, that they are now starting to work on the neutralization of the president by medication and by Pentagon doctors, whom, of course, government doctors at the highest level can be easily used as weaponized medical staff to control certain key central figures. And that's why it's true, Trump needs to have a third-party medical analysis of himself, and of course to test for other type of additives, substances that can be messing with his psychology, messing with his cognitive function, messing with his physiology. Because as the insiders say, this is not the Trump that they have known for the last 20, 30 years. And of course, now a decision like this, he's completely allying with the Democrats, at the same time, allying completely with the Democrats, again, in raising the debt ceiling, going completely against what he was saying as a candidate. And now with Doc, of course, doing the same. We'll be right back after the short break with more on breaking this story down. Stay with us.
$6.58. $6.14. $6.46. Time 471. Hello folks, I'm Justin Moon, the president of Carr Firearms Group, and today I've got the PM40 with True Glow night sights, and look at that, Magna porting. Look at that porting on that. This is our standard PM40 with the day sights, but now this model with the Magna porting and the True Glow night sights. What a difference. the 40 caliber PMs have a reputation for being quite a bit of a kicker. They do kick a lot. And so we put the MagnaPorting on these PM40s, and boy, what a difference does that make. It really makes this PM40 shoot a lot softer, reduces the muzzle flip, the recoil comes straight back into you, and becomes a very manageable pistol.
And we are back. Welcome back this Friday, September 15th, 2017. Sang King reporting live from Cheonilgung Palace. Getting back to this breakdown of the DACA amnesty program. Legalizing DACA is not amnesty. In statements today, Trump suggested that allowing DACA recipients to remain in the U.S. was not amnesty, as Breitbart News reported. We're looking at allowing people to stay here, Trump said. We're not looking at citizenship. We're not looking at amnesty. Though Trump is stern in his statement, allowing illegal aliens to remain in the U.S. in any form is considered, quote, amnesty by all immigration terms and policies. Number 5, DACA recipients are not taking U.S. jobs away from Americans is the untruth. As a study by the pro-immigration group Forward.us revealed, an amnesty to DACA recipients would mean the hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants currently holding jobs in the U.S. would be able to remain at those jobs rather than those opportunities potentially opening up for American workers. An ultimate end to DACA program has the potential to open up nearly 720,000 U.S. jobs for Americans, with the potential of more jobs in the future. Number 6, DACA recipients are, number 6 untruth, DACA recipients are highly educated. Though DACA has been touted by Trump as being a program for highly educated illegal aliens, research by the Migration Policy Institute shows this is not the case, and that a minority of DACA recipients have college degrees. For example, 1/3 of the people in the study sample who are older than age 25 had 4-year college bachelor's degrees or better. In contrast, an August 2013 report by Pro-Amnesty Migration Policy Institute showed that only 7.5% of the 800,000 DACA qualified illegals who were 18 years or older had 4-year college degrees or better. An August 2017 study by the MPI showed only 5% of 832,000 DACA illegals who were older than 18 had 4-year college qualifications. So again, another untruth. Number 7, the untruth is DACA recipients are not looking to take advantage of the immigration system. Though Trump now appears supportive of DACA, he has yet to address the concerns regarding thousands of DACA recipients who have schemed and used an advanced parole program loophole, allowing them to obtain green cards and U.S. citizenship. Recent USCIS data revealed 45,447 DACA recipients have been approved for advanced parole. 59,778 DACA recipients have applied for lawful permanent residence known as green card. 39,514 DACA recipients have been approved for a green card. Of the DACA recipients with green cards, 2,181 have applied for U.S. citizenship. Of the DACA recipients with green cards, 1,056 have become U.S. citizens. Untruth number 8, amnesty for DACA recipients will have no impact on illegal and legal immigration. Pro-American immigration reformers have told Breitbart News that an amnesty could lead to massive surges of illegal immigration at the U.S.-Mexico border, as well as surges in legal immigration, as DACA recipients become eligible to bring their foreign relatives to the U.S. For example, when former President Obama enacted DACA, U.S. Border Patrol saw an unprecedented surge of illegal alien children and families, as the Migration Policy Institute documented in 2014. Amnesty will lead to pro-American immigration reforms is the untruth. There's a possibility that Trump's administration believes that leading an amnesty for illegal aliens could eventually lead to successful pro-American immigration reforms that the president promised to enact. But as Representative Steve King of, is that Iowa? I believe that's Iowa, right? Representative Republican IA, right? That's Iowa?
That's Iowa, yes.
Pointed out in a single tweet, history shows amnesty is not a winner in the long run for immigration policy in the national interest. Reagan led with amnesty in 1986, Bush 43 led with amnesty 06, Obama led with amnesty 13, all failed, so Trump leads with DACA amnesty 2017. In fact, the very opposite is likely to happen if Trump signs an amnesty bill for illegal aliens. The Open Borders lobby and corporate interests are likely to push a full-fledged amnesty for all 12 to 30 million illegal aliens in the U.S. should Trump sign a DACA amnesty. So Trump has a soft spot for people. I mean, he's a lover of people. He tries to stand up for people. And so he's been lured in, it seems, to emotionally decide on this issue, when in fact, when you look at the statistic, it does harm the American worker, it does harm the people that are here legally, or who have gone through the immigration process legally.
I'm a little bit confused because I thought a week or so ago he said, okay, we're going to phase this out in 6 months, and if Congress wants to keep it, they have to make legislation.
He seems to be twisting and turning in all sorts of ways, isn't he?
What happened to that?
Well, Mark Levin on DACA deal, I don't know what kind of art of the deal this is. Must be abstract art of the deal, because I'm not seeing it. Thursday on his national syndicated radio show, conservative talker Mark Levin questioned the reported deal between Trump and Democratic leaders Pelosi and Schumer, apparently made a night earlier on the DACA program. Levin opened his show by asking what was Trump's definitive position on DACA, and noted how some in the conservative media had rationalized his decision to cooperate with Pelosi and Schumer. Where exactly does Trump stand on DACA and the law today? What is his position? Do you know his position? I hear all the bizarre arguments in defense of him going wobbly. The media are trying to separate Trump from his base, and this is really to get back at the Republicans. I don't know, it's just bizarre. But this is the president's decision. At the end of the segment, Levin went on to express his disapproval of the deal. Mr. President, you said you would support a wall, and you said you favored deportation. Levin added, this is not a good deal. This is not a good deal. I don't know what kind of art of the deal this is. It must be abstract art of the deal because I'm not seeing it. At the same time, Trump voters throw MAGA hats into Twitter bonfire. There are some pictures on Twitter where they're burning their Make America Great hats. Trump's voters have begun burning his signature MAGA hats in protest against his big amnesty for no wall deal with Democrats. Trump has sold millions of the hats, so there are many more to burn if Trump goes ahead with a vaguely described plan to support the Democrats' big dream amnesties in exchange for token improvements to border security, despite his campaign-winning pro-American immigration reform and border wall platform. More importantly, the hat burning may presage a huge demoralization amongst Trump's loyal followers and cause his support to drop down to the basement levels achieved by President Bush when he pushed for amnesty in 2006 and 2007. Bush's rating fell to almost 30% despite the booming economy once he alienated Republicans in 2006 by pushing for cheap labor amnesty bills. There's another picture of the MAGA hat on fire. Another one in the trash bin. Let's see this clip. There it is. His base expressing their anger. Trump supporters have already started burning MAGA hats and shirts in protest to Trump's amnesty. Everyone posts videos of it. Amnesty Don, you broke my heart. Throw Trump into the rubbish bin. Another burning of the hat. So again, they are expressing frustration and trying to communicate with the president as he is, look at this, when real Donald Trump lets the swamp monsters in and shows the base the door, the base fights back. The deplorables, MAGA, DACA, no amnesty. So again, it's a very easy way to emotionally connect with people. Oh, these are poor young dreamers who, and you put the name dreamer, but as the statistics showed, these are not young people. A lot of them are not young people. These are not innocent people. Many of them have criminal records. Okay? And the other 9 points that we went through, with all the details from the different immigration agencies that show that these are propaganda points of the leftist lunatics that it seems Trump is buying into. So the people are trying to have their voice be heard because Trump is being isolated. He is starting to make bad decisions in terms of leaning towards the Democrat or the neocons. The neocons and the whole welfare warfare state of both the Bushes and the Obamas, you name it. Right or left doesn't mean anything. They're just the same banker party. CIA takeover group. All this at the time where his top bodyguard aide is gone and now he's starting to slur his speech at night. Potentially where the president, of course, life at risk. We know that from the very beginning. But potentially being medicated now. There's a serious issue. This is basically the emperor of the world in terms of politics. And serious subterfuge is going on, trying to make him align with the political Satanist clansmen of the Democrats and the neocon Republicans. And if they get their way with him, nuclear war is on the horizon because they are frothing on the mouth to want another war to justify their massive military spending and massive military positions. An endless hegemonic warfare. Quote, nation building, feel-good politics, emotionalized politics, which of course ends up putting our enemies in power. If a North Korea nuclear war is anything like the Middle Eastern wars, we're going to end up putting North Korea in power, and they're going to end up unifying it. By the way, Trump, you have a commie in the seat of power in South Korea. So even though you go to war in North Korea and try to unify it, it's going to be unified again under communism because you got a commie as the president of South Korea. In between a rock and a hard place, and the whole world is watching as Kim launches another missile. We'll be right back covering that story right after this. Stay with us.
ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Our God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
And we are back. Welcome back to King's Report. I'm your host, Hyun Sean Moon, second King of Cheongguk, and we got breaking news from London right before we go to North Korea. Let's go to Tim, the Agent Elder, for our breaking story in London. Tim.
Okay, Fox News just coming across with a London subway blast, as seen as terrorism, police say. Reports of facial burns and a passenger rush to escape emerged Friday morning after an explosion occurred at a subway station in southwest London.
Pull that article up, please.
Police are treating the case as an act of terrorism, according to a statement by Met Police. My thoughts are with those injured at Parsons Green and emergency services who are responding bravely to this terrorist incident, tweeted British Prime Minister Theresa May. London's Metropolitan Police and ambulance services confirmed they were at the scene of the reported blast at the Parsons Green subway station in the southwest of the capital. The underground operator said services had been halted along the line. The London Ambulance Service said it was called at 8:20 a.m. local time and dispatched multiple resources to the scene, including a hazardous area response team. Our initial priority is to assess the level and nature of the injuries, a statement read. The incident injured about 20 people, including a young boy, according to The Sun. Richard Ulmer Hall, 53, who was on the train when the incident occurred, said he saw people injured after being trampled. There was a woman on the platform who said she had seen a bag, a flash, and a bang. So obviously something had gone off. He said some people got pushed over and trampled on. I saw two women being treated by ambulance crews. He added that he does not believe that anyone was injured by the actual device.
There's your cultural enrichment. People being blown to bits. Well, all cultures are the same, right? And just like we told you, the jihadis will become even more emblazoned after the mid-trib period. We know that as time is now coalescing into the mid-trib period and the 9/23 date, what did we tell you? It gets worse before it gets better! But always you have in your psychology matrix, in your spirit, trying to always have this ridiculous, unrealistic, unbiblical, false hope. You want to believe things will just get better. You want to believe that the Han Mother's curse is not a curse upon humanity. You want to believe that the second king talking about this, that was not real. It's just too much to handle. You want to believe in the cultural enrichment, want to be plugged back into the matrix and want to go to sleep again. Get your ashtray off the couch and get prepared. Start preparing. It's not getting better. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. How many billions of times do I have to say that every freaking day? It is going to get worse before it gets better. The book is walking to you. Remember this, huh? The little cup is jumping towards you. It's going to get worse. You understand? Before it gets better. How many times does second cabinet illustrate this to you? Worse before better. Leading up to 928 is getting worse. After 923, expect it to get worse. For the next 3.5 years. Tribulation is here. Do you understand that? Tribulation. 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 This is how brain dead people are. You think this is a game? You think this is a joke? You think this is some kind of show? This is God's providence now. The people of God must heed the warning call. This is not a time to be playing around. We have potential nuclear holocaust in East Asia with the politicians in the U.S. frothing at the mouth to want to go blow things up, so they justify the military-industrial complex and the welfare state and the big government and the politicians and the generals, and you name it. You have a potential situation where Trump is now starting to become the swamp and potentially being poisoned, or what we would say, medicated. You have another terrorist explosion, Islamic radical terrorism in London just now. And to put that up with a cherry on top, maybe about 8 million people die in a nuclear war in the first hour. It's so unfathomably big that your mind can't process it, and you think it's just another news bite and news point. You don't realize these are 8 million people. That's what Stalin said. Millions of people dying is a statistic. One person dying is a story. Is that what it is? Something like that?
Something like that.
Because people cannot process the amount of death and carnage 8 million people will be. So your mind shuts off, it can't process that, and you're more influenced by a story of one person dying.
A single death is a tragedy, a million deaths is a statistic.
Because you can emotionalize that tragedy. There it is. Single death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic. So you emotionally cut off from that, and you can't process 8 million people dying. But if it was your grandma or if it was your aunt or something, then you would connect with that one person. And understand the psychology, the global elite who are into technocracies and into using technology to be the ruling aristocracy or aristocrats, understanding human behavioral psychology, understanding how the mind works, they understand this about propaganda. So your mind cannot process 800 million deaths. And so you blow it up as if it's just another news bite. Do you understand what kind of danger this world is in now? You freaking lunatic idiot! Can you fathom the danger we are in? Oh, but all you said to thinking we're crazy, huh? all you cursed the second king when I told the Han Mother the truth. Because the micro leads the macro. The microcosm of God's providence leads the macro, not the opposite way around. And for anybody who was real discernment and real love for our true Father, this was imminently apparent. That if the Han Mother eradicated him, glorifying herself, she would not only be humble, she would bring ruin to the world. God's victory and kingdom would still exist because of the victorious Cain and Abel, and our condition to stand against her and not go along with her heresy. But it would come through this tribulation, which now we're encountering, and nobody believed that in 3 years Korea would be completely demolished. Nobody believed that within 3 years Korea's national identity and politics would be completely reversed. It would collapse economically. Nobody believed the U.S. would be under this type of unbelievable tribulation. With Hillary Rodham Clinton almost taking over, but right as we start standing up against Donald Trump, then Trump emerges out of nowhere, then the Liberty Department, right as we start promoting Liberty Alternative Media News Media, then the Liberty Alternative News Media starts getting blessed and starts getting promoted and starts getting published by the president. Right as we start talking about 9/11, 9/11 starts coming out. Right as we said Trump has to win, Trump wins. Northeast Pennsylvania. You are the lunatic. You are the one who is not unprophetic. You are the one who cannot discern. The victorious Cain and Abel can discern. Why do you think the King of Kings put a crown on my head and anointed Cain and Abel as elder and younger brother that represent him? And just like we said to the mother and the stupid, decrepit, fraudulent, prostitute leadership, because think about it, Japan always played a critical role in serving Father. And that leadership was, quote, pretending to serve Father. And because of power, they've completely shifted and colluded with the eradication of Father. So the judgment, not only on Korea because of the betrayal there, but on Japan is huge too. And of course, I know we want to believe in ourselves as these heroic figures and all this kind of thing, and then we'll somehow stop the impending doom. I'm sorry, you're not that important. Sorry. Sorry, you are not that important. The key central figure, on now Satan's side, have completely mucked up the world. And the Mother has already chosen that it will come through judgment. Father's victory is going to come, the kingdom will come, but through judgment, not blessing. And you can't stop it with wishful thinking. You can't stop it with demo and protest. You can't stop it with cheongsam. You can't stop it with prayers. How many times do I have to tell you, you are not the center of the world. God has chosen his central figures to be the center of providence, and it's not you. But again, you're deluded, thinking you are the center when you're not. You are not the successor. You are not the inherited body. You are not Father's representative. You are in a game of self-worship where you want to be, but you are not. And so whatever the second king says is, and I know when I speak to you, I'm speaking generally. I'm not speaking to all sanctuaries. I know many sanctuaries, of course, don't do that. But there are those who are still brain dead. And of course, we know the family fathers are secretly watching King's Report. Anyways. The Bible talks very clearly in the mid-trib period, there will be more tribulation. more attack. There will be more death and destruction. There will be beheadings of faithful believers. There will be attack on the woman and the virgin, whom of course we've identified, we know is Mrs. Kang. There will be larger and larger attack. You'll forget everything. And then when it happens, you still forget, and you're still in this brain-dead, cult-like, unbiblical, false hope that somehow, oh, okay, this is just another, and it's going to get better tomorrow. No, it's not. It's getting worse. Better get ready for a fight, 3.5 years. Better get ready for a long fight. That's a long fight. Of course, in the context, it's very short. 3.5 years is very short. But in terms of your own pre-planning, it's very long because you're planning for some feeling to get bad, and then next moment you can feel better about it. You are the one who's underestimating your opponent and Satan's attack. Not the second king, not Cain and Abel. We are telling you every day on the loudspeaker, every day to your face, every day at Sunday service, every day, it's getting worse. It's going to get worse, not better. All things are coalescing to make things worse now, not better. How many times do I tell you? Get ready for more persecution. Get ready for more disasters. Get ready for more tribulation. And then, of course, you want to get into that whole exercise of, oh, no, it's going to be fine. Oh, and you listen to this. Oh, no, that's fear-mongering. Oh, no, yes. Well, you've been wrong every single time. But again, you're in your exercise of self-worship. Again, your exercise of trying to console yourself and try to worship yourself when you are constantly wrong. Your prophecies were wrong consistently. And obviously, you're not the center of providence. And we're not saying that to brag, it's just the truth. Because Father appointed me as his heir, representative, and successor. And of course, anointed Cain and Abel as the center of providence to bring his kingdom. And he said, with the blessing on that day that he anointed his kingdom, because Cain and Abel have become one, the kingdom will come. Not because of you. Not because of your victories. No, Cain and Abel. And look, top news now. After the London terror attack, North Korea again fires an ICBM. Nuclear capable missile over the second most powerful economic power in the world. Now third, Japan. Bring terror and mayhem to East Asia. Let's look at this clip from South Korean TV as they announced the North Korean missile launch.
를 발사한 것으로 현재 확인이 됐습니다.
네, 다시 한번 전해드리겠습니다. 합참에 따르면 북한이 평양 일대에서 동쪽으로 미사일을 발사했.
平和を脅かす北朝鮮の危険な挑発行為に対して
They're trying to impeach Abe right now, the leftist lunatics. This lunatic is a complete commie.
진정한 대화의 길로 놓을 수밖에 없도록
He might as well be in bed with the North Koreans because he's treating South Korea like a communist state. Live bar ballistic missiles. Ooh, I'm sure North Korea is so frightened. They just launched nuclear-capable ICBMs over hundreds of miles. And Korea throws a little ballistic firecrackers, and I'm sure they're quaking in their boots.
2,300 miles.
The only way, realistically, that the U.S. is going to get rid of North Korean threat is by tactical nuclear weapons. That's the only way. It's going to be very hard to get in there and get SEAL Team 6 in there to try to assassinate Kim Jong-un. Very hard. The only way they're going to wipe out that artillery and that potential force that can rain hellfire on South Korea and Seoul, killing 8 million in 1 freaking hour. The only way they're going to get rid of all that is to do tactical nuclear war. But like Kook Jin-im has elucidated, tactical nuclear war is extremely dangerous, not only in terms of devastation, but politically. Because wars, especially nuclear wars, have tremendous amounts of politics interwoven in it. And you have to have the moral high ground to use tactical nuclear war in the global international arena. You can't just say there's a threat and we got to just wipe them out and just start nuking a nation. The only way the U.S. would be justified in using a nuclear tactical attack on the North is if the U.S. itself or South Korea, one of its allies, was hit with a nuclear bomb by North Korea. Then it would have the international moral high ground to say, okay, now everybody agrees, right? We got to now nuke North Korea. And just destroy it all, killing 25 million people. Do you understand the level of carnage? Devastation? Literally hellfire and brimstone falling from the sky? That little book called Revelation at the end of the Bible, I mean, literally coming into reality. Now, if there's one, quote, good side to it, a nuclear war is a shorter war because it's so devastating. It doesn't draw out 20, 30, 40 years of countries nuking each other. So nuclear war is fast. It can be over in a couple years. But it's devastating, do you understand? And when Russia and China start colluding and start choosing sides, then you got World War III. At the same time, you have all these economies around the world collapsing and infrastructure bubbles bursting. As we are on the tip of an international global financial crash, bigger than Lehman Brothers in 2008. Because the debt now is at the international BIS and IMF levels, not the national US level, which was like the Lehman Brothers. They could be still built up by the IMF. Now the IMF is in quantitative easing, basically financial explosion. And there's nobody bailing it out. Do you understand? The banker political Satanism system is over. It's at its end. It's at the end of its thread. The bubble's about to burst. People start to realize they're screwed. People start to realize that they've been decimated and lied to by the federal governments and the international banking community. And the best way to appease that anger, to get rid of it and to mitigate its effects is what? Nuclear war. These people just are so brain dead sometimes. Don't understand the seriousness of the time we live in. You don't understand what era we are living in. This is all a big joke. This is all a big show where you be entertained watching Second King rant and rave. Ah, 8 million people dying. Ah, 25 million being nuked. Ah, nuclear holocaust, nuclear war, all worldwide. Ah, China and Russia using this as a starting point to enter into World War III with the United States, trying to capitalize on their leverage points. Ah, China trying to get off the petrodollar and start trading in yuan in exchange for gold. And I'm trying to destroy and dissolve our Middle Eastern and international ally network. And radical jihadists flooding into NATO and Europe, invading it. Today with the live breaking news of a terror bomb, another one. Almost one every week now in Europe. The world has never been in this much danger. Do you understand? In your lifetime. Never. Not just financial danger, not just economic danger, not just military danger, not just nuclear danger. The world has never been in this much danger. This many cataclysmic effects coalescing into one point in time. At the same time, in 923, where the actual sign in heaven appears, that is prophesied 2,000 years ago by John on Patmos Island. And a great war is about to happen, where the serpent will try to destroy the woman, her child who rules the rod of iron, and the saints, which are the believers who stand up for Christ. Do you understand that? The tribulation is here, and mid-trib is coming. It gets worse before it gets better, not the other way around. Get it through your damn head and get your action ready. We'll be right back. I have a short break. Stay with us.
Hi, welcome to Tommy Gun Warehouse. We have a short video for you this afternoon. We want to show you how to work the action on a P380. This is our very small pocket 380 that it has a very strong spring, to work the slide. And this is because it's a very small gun, and we need to have that extra spring tension to actually make the gun work properly. So today I want to show you how to properly work the action. Ladies sometimes find it very difficult, not to mention some men find it difficult to work the slide. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how to hand a firearm to someone properly. The ejection port should be up, the slide is back, and nothing in the magazine well. Then you take this and you hand it to somebody in this manner. They should then verify that it is empty and nothing in the magazine well. And now what I want to show you is how to work the action on this P380. It's sometimes difficult for men and many times difficult for women, but if you know how, it's not that difficult. So a die is going to start out by facing at a 45-degree angle downrange. The gun is going to be, the axis of the barrel is going to be the same axis as her forearm. She's going to keep it closer to her chest, and then reaching over the top with her weak hand, she's going to make sure that this ejection port is clear, that her hand isn't in the way, because you don't want to have an accidental detonation of a primer and injure your hand. So using the upper body strength, you're going to, just work it together, push and pull at the same time, and lock it back. And it's just that simple. You might not get it the first time, but all it takes is a little practice and learning how to use your muscles, and you'll do just fine. I had started this just a short time ago, and after the third or fourth attempt, she was doing it perfectly. So thanks for listening. Come down and see us at Tommy Gun Warehouse, and we'll show you this P380.
Yes, sir.
While we teach prosperity, the first thing to prosper should be inside me. Not because of 22s on the range, but Christ came in range. We said yes, now we change. Not the same, even though I met a fall. Since I got that call, no more Saul, now I'm Paul. Yep. I don't wanna gain the whole world and lose my soul.
And we are back. Welcome back this Friday, September 15, 2017. Second King and Tim Elder reporting live from the Cheonggyeong Palace. Go to Tim for the North Korean crisis. Tim.
So this is AP reporting out of Seoul. North Korea fired an intermediate range missile over Japan into the northern Pacific Ocean on Friday. U.S. and South Korean militaries said its longest ever such flight, and a clear message of defiance to its rivals. Since President Donald Trump threatened the North with fire and fury in August, Pyongyang has conducted its most powerful nuclear test, threatened to send missiles into the waters around Guam, and launched 2 missiles of increasing range over U.S. ally Japan. It tested its first ever intercontinental ballistic missiles in July. The growing frequency, power, and confidence displayed by these tests seem to confirm what governments and outside experts have long feared. North Korea is closer than ever to its goal of building a military arsenal that can viably target both U.S. troops in Asia and the U.S. homeland. This in turn is meant to allow North Korea greater military freedom in the region by raising doubts in Seoul and Tokyo that Washington would risk the annihilation of a U.S. city to protect its Asian allies. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said the missile traveled about 3,700 kilometers or 2,300 miles and reached a maximum height of 770 kilometers or 478 miles.
They're increasing.
That's more than enough to reach Guam. North Korea has repeatedly vowed to continue these tests amid what it calls U.S. hostility, by which it means the presence of tens of thousands of U.S. troops in Japan and South Korea. Robust diplomacy on the issue has been stalled for years, and there's little sign that senior officials from Pyongyang and Washington might sit down to discuss ways to slow the North's determined march toward inclusion among the world's nuclear weapons powers.
This is the reality of the North Korean situation. The North Korean situation is in a very tenuous position. Kim Jong-un is in a very tenuous position. There's already pockets of free market starting to appear in North Korea because the welfare dole has run out in North Korea. And as the people now start trading and free market dynamics and the invisible hand of God starts moving and blessing people who serve others, then there's prosperity in little pockets, and they're realizing that they've been conned and they've been duped by a totalitarian tyrant who steals their young children and daughters to have in his pleasure palaces. They've been told a lie. And they can also watch Korean dramas, which you're all watching, by the way, in the South Korean dramas, and seeing how prosperous South Korea is. And they've been given propaganda from a very young age, being brainwashed, told that the South Korea is completely ravaged and it's totally war-torn and democracy has totally destroyed it. And capitalism has totally destroyed Korea and they're living in impoverished huts. Then they actually see the Korean dramas like, holy shish kebab. That's the backstory of North Korea. It has a totally illegitimate government that is collapsing from within. There are already parties of subterfuge that are already trying to get rid of Kim Jong-un, which of course he tried to eradicate by murdering members of his family and of course top senior officials. Sending out the message that he will be a total totalitarian bloodthirsty tyrant, which of course then allows total totalitarian bloodthirsty government agents to start colluding with one another in secret to start getting rid of him. And of course, when there's that much instability from inside out, there will be provocations of war. As he tries to maintain the solidity and cohesiveness of the nation, which is getting a taste of freedom away from the totalitarians. I'm sorry, go ahead, Tim.
So North Korea has repeatedly vowed to continue these tests amid what it calls U.S. hostility. Friday's missile, which Seoul said was the 19th ballistic missile launched by North Korea this year, triggered sirens and warning messages in northern Japan, but caused no apparent damage to aircraft or ships. It was the second missile fired over Japan in less than a month. North Korea conducted its sixth...
Less than 1 month! 1 month!
Fired over Japan, yeah. The most powerful nuclear test on September 3rd. That was a hydrogen bomb. The missile was launched from Sunan, the location of Pyongyang's international airport, and the origin of the earlier missile that flew over Japan. Analysts have speculated the new test was the same intermediate range missile launched in that earlier flight, the Hwasong-12. That missile is linked to North Korea's declaration that it means to contain the U.S. Pacific island territory of Guam, which is the home of important U.S. military assets and appears well within Hwasong-12's range. Friday's missile test was met with usual outrage. South Korean President Moon Jae-in ordered his military to conduct a live-fire ballistic missile drill in response to the North Korean launch and instructed government officials to pursue stern measures to discourage Pyongyang from further provocations. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said one of the two missiles fired in the drill hit a sea target about 250 kilometers away, which was approximately the distance to Pyongyang's Sunan, but the other failed in flight shortly after launch.
Well, let's think about that. You see, North Korea just blew up a hydrogen bomb, which created a 6.7 on the Richter scale earthquake. And now you're shooting little South Korean ballistic missile firecrackers. And ooh, they're going to be so scared. So scared. They just detonated a hydrogen bomb. Generating a 6.7 on the Richter scale. Ooh, your stern warning, Mr. Moon Jae-in, who is a commie leftist, one of the worst commie leftists in Korean history. I mean, you're talking about liberal lunatic, Democrat, leftist lunatic. He's exactly that. You talk about globalist operative, you talk about centralist operative, you talk about cultural Marxist, you talk about complete political Satanist.
And in these types of situations, the people say, well, the government has to do something, do something. So, okay, we'll file for a few missiles. That'll show them.
They're quaking in their boots with those firecrackers. Okay, go ahead.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis both called the North Korean launch a reckless act. The UN Security Council scheduled an emergency closed-door meeting to be held Friday afternoon in New York. Trump has not commented. The North American Aerospace Defense Command and the U.S. Pacific Command said the missile posed no threat to North America or Guam. South Korean experts have said that North Korea wants to make missiles flying over Japan an accepted norm as it seeks to win more military space in a region dominated by its enemies.
Just get used to it. Do you understand, you Japanese?
Oh, look, there goes another one.
Just get used to it. Having nuclear bombs flying overhead, okay? Oh, my Lord. This is insane. Okay, then.
North Korea initially flight tested the Hwasong-12 and the ICBM model Hwasong-14 at highly lofted angles to reduce their range and avoid neighboring countries. The two launches over Japan indicate North Korea is moving toward using angles close to operational to determine whether its warheads can survive the harsh conditions of atmospheric re-entry.
That's a critical point. Every time they're successfully launching an ICBM mid-range, long-range, you name it, or a hydrogen bomb, they're gathering more information, they're gathering more problem-solving abilities, they're gathering more data collection on the different technologies, which then what? Then improves their technology, allows them to improve and make more deadly, dangerous, and precise their weaponry. So the longer the US continues to allow them to do these tests, which are literally flying over sovereign nations, do you understand? When the whole international community was poo-pooing North Korea, saying, "Yeah, they don't got nothing. This is what a JV." Obama was saying that about ISIS, but they're in the minor leagues. They're showing very quickly that they have way more capabilities because, of course, the U.S. has armed them. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton gave them nuclear technology. Then we think, way ahead of what we think, way ahead of what CNN has said, way ahead of what MSNBC said. They've tried to allay the fears of the public, but the reality is that it was true. They have the capabilities of hydrogen technology, atomic bombs that are 10 times more powerful than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They have it, they're ready to go, and every missile they launch is gaining more advanced weaponry and technology for their apocalyptic arsenal. And at the same time, Trump is at the world stage where everybody in the world is now watching how he will decide. He's got major decisions laying in front of him on the table, and internally at the White House, there is subterfuge and there's assassination attempts, and they're getting rid of his key aides and isolating him, getting rid of his key security personnel. The world is in tremendous danger with these massive decisions that President Trump will have to make. And if his mind is in some compromised state, this could mean a very deadly decision. We'll be right back after the short break. Stay with us on the King Report.
This world has nothing for me. This life is not my own. I know you go before me, and I am not.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report. Seng King and Tim Elder reporting live from the Cheonggyegung Palace. What an intense time to live, folks. This is not a time to be asleep. Let's go back to this article and Tim's report. Tim.
So that is pretty much the end of the AP article. They have a few more paragraphs of a background, but I'd just like to point out again that, I think it was Tip O'Neill, the former House chairman, who said that, speaker who said that all politics is local. So actually you can also say that all international politics is local. And so we have to understand what's going on in each of the countries that are surrounding us, especially China, leading up to its the National Congress of its Communist Party. National Congress Party starting on the 18th of October. And Kim Jong-un knows that Xi Jinping's hands are tied until that Congress, because he doesn't want to doesn't want to upset anything. He's going to use that Congress to try and become as important to the Chinese Communist Party as Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping, and he doesn't want anybody sort of causing any trouble before that, and he doesn't want to do anything that might upset his plans. And so Kim Jong-un feels a free hand, I think, to do anything he wants up until that party. The question is what will happen after that, and I think I would recommend to the U.S. policymakers that they, no matter how much they may want to do a preemptive strike against North Korea now, that they wait at least until after that party Congress in China. That's the then Xi Jinping, I think, will be a lot freer to do what he wants. Reuters also is reporting this, and they have more local color on this. Warning announcements about the missile blared about 7 a.m. in parts of northern Japan, while many residents received alerts on their mobile phones or saw warnings on TV telling them to seek refuge. Our sanctuary person in Hokkaido was telling us how they have this J alert system where when a missile is fired by North Korea that's coming towards Japan, people with cell phones immediately get an alert on their phone saying, take cover. Let's see, let me go back, try and find some of the more local things here. But problem is that people are told to take cover, but there's really no time to do that. Here, this is on Yahoo News, this is an AFP article. Missile launch. A missile appears to have been launched from North Korea. Take cover in a building or underground. To the accompaniment of blaring sirens and emergency phone alerts, that was the terrifying loudspeaker message that jolted millions of Japanese awake in the early hours as North Korea blasted its second missile over the country in less than a month. So think about being woken up at 7 o'clock in the morning with that kind of a blaring missile alert. Missile alert. The end of the world.
I mean, that's serious stuff.
Yes, it is. But for local residents in the flight path over to the northern Japanese island of Hokkaido, there was no question of this becoming a routine event. Quote, I cannot say we are used to this. I mean, the missile flew right over our town. It's not a very comforting thing to hear, unquote, said Yoshihiro Saito, who works in a small fishing town of Erimo in Hokkaido. It's pretty scary. I heard that it went 2,000 kilometers in the Pacific and dropped in the sea, where 16 of his ships were operating under the missile flight path. So who knows, a fishing vessel could get hit by one of these things. Citizens and that would be a definite cause of war then if a ship were to get hit. Citizens in earthquake-prone Japan are well drilled in seeking cover when emergency strikes, but when only a matter of minutes from launch to impact, several residents voiced a feeling of helplessness. It's really scary. The government tells us to flee to stable buildings, but we can't do that quickly. Our colleagues offshore can never take cover, said Yoichi Takashi, a fisheries official in Kushiro in Hokkaido. It has now happened twice to us. We'll have restless days from now on,
in the last month,
told AFP. And Isamu Oya, a sushi restaurant owner in Erimo, told AFP, the government told us to take cover in a stable building or underground. But there isn't one here. We have no choice but just do nothing. Scary, yes, but we can't help it. And breakfast television programs across Japan, usually broadcasting a light-hearted diet of children's shows and gadget features, instead flashed up the warning messages as the intermediate-range ballistic missile flew overhead. Mobile carriers in Japan sent automatic text messages to rouse customers awake. Train services between Japan's main island and Hokkaido were temporarily suspended after the launch, and bullet train service were also halted. Airports in the area appeared to be unaffected, however, with Shinya Matsuda, an official at Obihiro Airport near the missile's flight path, telling AFP that passengers there were calm and quiet. We are just relieved it did not affect us. In other words, it didn't hit us. An ashen-looking Shinzo Abe, Japan's prime minister, said his country could never tolerate such dangerous, provocative action that threatens world peace. If North Korea continues to walk down this path, it has no bright future. We must make North Korea understand this, he added. The Japanese government said its priority was to ensure the safety of its citizens. There were no immediate reports of falling debris or damage, but Tokyo stressed that a missile launch without warning could have destroyed shipping or aircraft in the area. But some locals living on the missile flight path fretted that repeated missile launches could have a damaging impact on their day-to-day lives. We're afraid that this may have an impact on our life, ranging from fishing to tourism, said Hironori Matsura, an official at the Anti-Disaster Division of Erimo Town Hall. Sushi chef Oya said he thought the missiles wouldn't affect his trade, as most of his customers were local, but acknowledged that I'm afraid this may affect a flow of tourism to Erimo. Meanwhile, others displayed a grim determination that life would go on. Saito admitted that the missiles had been dominating conversation in the town, like how scary it is, but he said no one really has talked about stopping their work or suspending their operations. Yeah, what can you do? I think that's basically the attitude of most people in that area of Hokkaido. If it hits us, it hits us. But we just have to carry on life. I guess they're still not making any sort of a disaster preparations, though.
Yeah, that's something that our communities there can start dialoguing. And of course, you know, we encourage them when we had our guests on from Hokkaido to start like a YouTube channel, a prepping channel, start talking about, just talk about it, you know, and start just introducing ideas.
I think that's important because the government is telling them to take cover in a sturdy building, and the response is there are no sturdy buildings. So if the government is not giving you good advice, then like you said, people have to develop survival techniques on their own.
They've got to stop thinking in this mechanistic, robotic, groupthink mentality of conformity, where the government says something and you go, yes, they won't take care of us, they won't take care of us, they won't take care. You have to think as a human being made in the image of God, trying to survive.
Maybe that's the silver lining on this cloud. The Japanese will start thinking that way.
Ridiculous. They've got to start preparing, learn bushcraft, survival skills, emergency preparedness skills. You know what I'm saying? They got to start, you know, thinking about different items that can help preserve their life and family. This is a survival instinct that is killed by the globalists, killed by the political Satanists, killed by the centralists, killed by the control freaks, killed by the authoritarians. They want you to kill your survival instinct, because then you'll have power to stand up and fight against them and realize that they're the predators and they're the predator class raping and ravaging and tax farming you. They need you to have a deadened pineal gland, fluoridated pineal gland, and deadened amygdala function. So you cannot understand that predators are sitting on top of you laughing when they say, hey, what's for dinner? Ah, take one of the sheep. And you're the dumb sheep just sitting there and saying, oh, they'll take care of us. They said they would. They said they'd take care of us. Oh, okay. Some dinner time? Okay. What time is it? I don't know. Do you understand? You are for dinner. Your children are for dinner for these predators. And they want your survival instinct and instinct to survive and your will to survive and your dispensation and your mission given you by God to die. A cold death. They want it to be dead. As a corpse. Lifeless. Inanimate. Dead. We hope that the Hokkaido Sanctuary Brothers and Sisters, and even in Korea, can start these dialogues, can start the prepping community, can start leading the bushcraft community, can start leading. Why? Because they don't have direction. They just try to survive. They don't know what to expect after the tribulation. We already have the Chinese Constitution. We already have the kingdom of God that's coming. We already have sovereignty and the crowns and the rod of irons that are coming against the predators. We already have a civilization of prosperity, liberty, and human rights that is coming. They don't have that. Christians don't have that. They don't know what's going on. They may know end times tribulation, but they don't know what the kingdom is that's coming. Let alone the noble folks in Japan and Korea who are completely trusting like dumb conformity, brain-dead sheep under authoritarian predator farmers, meat producers literally, which are tax farming the population, sharpening their knives at the dinner table. So yes, it would be wonderful if our community can start waking people up. Of course, I know they are, but at a more serious rate. Start gathering information on the prepping community here. It's amazing. All this is lining up. Just yesterday, after the international meeting, I was in the car retail shop because I asked Cook Jung, can I set up a basic survival kit so that people can just, they're so lazy. I tell them a billion times, get a survival kit, basic survival kit, and I explain every single freaking item in detail, and still they don't do it. It's so ridiculously annoying and frustrating.
If there's a kit like that, people would buy it.
Yeah, so I said, Cook Jung, I'm going to go to the retail shop, I'm going to put together a kit, and do you have a problem with that? And he said, no, okay, that's fine, no, have a kit. And so basically, I put together a mini survival kit, wilderness survival kit for individuals, that you should have anybody who's going to the wilderness, who's camping, hiking, bushcrafting, or of course, on the run, you know, in a bad scenario, you know, Schmidt hits the fan scenario. Minimal kit that you need, absolute minimum. Absolutely minimum, of course, centered around the 5C system and the Pathfinder system, because I'm trained there. And of course, they have the best system in terms of identifying the most 5 needed items that are the hardest to reproduce in the wild and that are the most important tools to have. High quality cutting tool, combustion devices to make fire, cordage, which are very hard to reproduce and very slow to reproduce in the wild. Containers that are steel, metal, multiple, that can be made to use decoctions, infusions, medicinal herbs, and of course teas, and boil and disinfect water. For medical aid, first aid, for hydration, thermoregulation, etc. And of course a covering element which then helps you thermoregulate and stay out of inclement weather. So that kit, the individual 5C survival kit, individual kit is being prepared. Also the family style, the family survival kit is the second level with the most of the tools and implements that you need for your family. And then third level kit is that family kit plus alpha, 120 servings of preparedness food. So there'll be 3 different levels. And I was just there in the car retail shop yesterday putting that together. Did I have to do it? No. Putting it together, and then all of a sudden the next freaking day we're talking about and reporting about this kind of insanity. Japan and Korea must start talking about these issues. Even just talking about a survival kit, even just having a survival kit starts empowering you to prepare now before calamity hits. As literally freaking missiles are flying over your towns. Do you understand? ICBM, massive nuclear missiles. How brain dead do our people? It's ridiculous. Start this conversation. Start this dialogue with the people in the internet world and your community. Start getting your basic kits prepared, because at least that will get you in the spirit and the motivation to start thinking in proper survival instincts and proper amygdala function. This is ridiculous. Stop being procrastinating, lazy asses. And start getting prepared. We'll be right back after a short break.
Hold on, Lord ain't finished yet. Hold on, he'll get you through this. Hold on, These are the promises I never will forget. I never will forget. So hold on, the Lord ain't finished yet. Hold on, he'll get you through this. Hold on, these are the promises I never will forget. I never will forget. I know your heart been broke again. I know your prayers ain't been answered yet. But it ain't over yet. It ain't over yet. So get up and move. Keep walking. Soldier, keep moving on. Keep walking until the morning. You got to move. Keep walking. Soldier, keep moving on and lift your head. It ain't over yet. It ain't over. Lift up your head now. Keep walking. Soldier, keep moving. Lift up your head now. Keep walking until the morning. Keep believing. Keep walking. Soldier, keep moving on and lift your head. It ain't over yet. It ain't over yet. Keep walking. Keep walking. Soldier, keep moving on. Keep walking. Keep walking. Soldier, keep moving on. Keep walking. Another heartbreak day. Feels like you're miles away. Don't even need no shade when your sun don't shine. Shine. Too many passing dreams roll by like limousines. It's hard to keep believing when it pass you by and by. I know your heart been broke again. I know your prayers ain't been answered yet. I know you're feeling like you got nothing left. Well, lift your head. It ain't over yet, it ain't over yet. So move, keep walking. Soldier, keep moving on. Keep walking until the morning comes. Keep walking. Soldier, keep moving on and lift your head. It ain't over yet, it ain't over yet. Echoing inside your head are the words that your sweet mama said. Shoot for the moon, my dear. So you took game out of this atmosphere between high stakes and pump fakes. You're feeling like you can't vibrate. I can hold your hand, but I can't turn your eyes to freedom. I know your heart been broke again. I know your prayers ain't been answered yet. I know you're feeling like you got nothing left. Well, lift your head. It ain't over yet, it ain't over yet. So keep walking. Soldier, keep moving on. Keep walking until the morning comes. Keep walking. Soldier, keep moving on and lift your head. It ain't over yet, it ain't over yet. Hold on, Lord ain't finished yet. Hold on, he'll get you through this. Hold on, these are the promises I never will forget. I never will forget. So hold on, the Lord ain't finished yet. Hold on, he'll get you through this. Hold on, these are the promises I never will forget. I never will forget. I know your heart been broke again. I know your prayers ain't been answered yet. But it ain't over yet. It ain't over yet. So get up and move. Keep walking. Soldier, keep moving on. Keep walking until the morning. You got to move. Keep walking. Soldier, keep moving on and lift your head. It ain't over yet. It ain't over. Lift up your head now. Keep walking. Soldier, keep moving. Lift up your head now. Keep walking heartbreak day. Feels like you're miles away. Don't even need no shade when your sun don't shine, shine. Too many passing dreams roll by like limousines. It's hard to keep believing when it pass you by and by. I know your heart been broke again. I know your prayers ain't been answered yet. I know you're feeling like you got nothing left. Well, lift your head. It ain't over.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report on this third hour broadcast, worldwide, international, broadcasting from the Cheonryung Palace, the center of it all. Your host, Second King, reporting from the Cheonryung Palace with Tim Elder. And this hour we are joined by patriot and man of God, Jerry Haynes. It's just spelled Hines, but it's Haynes. It's confusing, isn't it? Jerry Haynes, president of International Protective Service Agency and executive protection trainings worldwide. He goes and travels overseas all the time. He's such a busy guy, hard to get him. Always traveling, training different law enforcement, different security personnel, executive security personnel, a high level, high asset value, individuals which are being trained by his people. So Jerry, talk about your organization, but at the same time, let us know why it's so important to at least have a basic awareness of survival and sheepdog mentality. Go ahead, Jerry.
Thank you. Well, one is I've been doing security for now 40 years. So it's become somewhat of a lifestyle for me.
Yeah.
And as we were talking on the break, it's unfortunate that so many people have a sheep mentality where they just don't understand. It's almost like they don't have the capacity to understand what's happening around them. But they do recognize the importance of when there is danger to find a sheepdog. So you have those that become sheepdogs, who protect the sheep. In the security field, really what we mostly do is we try to avoid trouble by pre-planning. We say it advance, 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 is to pre-plan ahead of trouble. So number one is our first goal is to avoid trouble. Second is that should trouble arise, to have a plan, to have a second plan. We call it plans within plans. So, in terms of preparation for these trying times is to be prepared, to do everything you can to not engage into a battle. We often say we use Sun Tzu, a battle not fought is a battle won. It's also important to know yourself and know your enemy. So what are we facing? What dangers are we facing in today's times? It's important for us to recognize that. And on the King's Report, you're highlighting that. You're telling people, you're screaming at the top of your head, be prepared. You know, it's better to be prepared and not have to do anything than something happen and not be prepared.
Well, it's interesting because these are very important spiritual, not only physical, but spiritual principles that you just heard Jerry talk about. Now, I've heard you talk about situational awareness and how that's like one of your first layers of defense. Talk more to us about situational awareness.
Well, and that's critical. And one is, it starts with yourself, self-preservation. And we all have that right to have self-preservation. It's our right to exist. It's our right to defend ourselves against any adversary or any problem. Second is then your family, your next immediate, and you can't protect your family if you're dead, so you have to keep yourself alive, and then you're protecting your family, and then the next level is, you know, your extended family, your community. You know, and so you have to prepare. Situational awareness is critical. You have to know your surroundings, and so one is you have to become familiar with your surroundings. What are normal in your surroundings, around your home, when you leave your house to the car. You know, one of the greatest dangers of people today is their smartphone, because they bury their head, even they've been on their smartphone all morning.
So true.
They leave their house, on the way to the car, they're still looking at their smartphone. You know, so there's a time to put that away.
Zombies.
So situational awareness is to recognize, you know, when you're in a safe environment in your home, you can be looking at your smartphone or you can be on a computer, but when it's time to pack up and go to your car and get in your car, the first situational awareness is to be aware there could be problems out there. You know,
Yes.
So to put your phone away, you go to the car and to have your head up and be alert, to be looking for potential dangers, you know. And then when you're in your car, not just when you get in the car, suddenly while you're warming the car up, you can look at your smartphone. You need to make sure you lock the door.
That's so key. Like, that's such an important habit, right? Like, I always try to get the queen to this habit. When you're sitting in a car, lock the door. Look around. You know, basic stuff. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Very
and
important.
then let's just say you're in the mall and your wife is shopping, and you want to check, you know, use your smartphone. It's important to put your back to a wall. Find a place where you know what's behind you and where it's safe, so you can sit where no one can come up from behind you. And then if you're going to look at your smartphone, don't put your head down and bury yourself in it. Lift your head. Make sure you can see things around you.
Now, for some sheep, this makes me so paranoid. Wait a minute, in the shopping mall there, don't you know that I'm safe? Hello, you know that people are being stabbed in the shopping mall? This the whole funny Alex Jones song. These are actual real stories. People got stabbed by these migrants in the freaking shopping mall, got blown up by terrorist bombs in the shopping mall.
Absolutely.
Hello. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, absolutely. And you know, also to know your surroundings. Where are you? So when you're home, you know, where can I go? Part of situational awareness is, you know, one is to recognize dangers, to have a plan. So if you're in a mall, should something happen, and in today's society, you have, you know, active shooters.
Yeah.
Active shooter situations. You have riots. You have now these protesters have a mob type mentality. At any given time, it's like a spark.
Of Antifa, video of Antifa.
Yeah, and those kind of situations can arise quickly.
Did you see this where these guys were praying, these Christians were praying, and the stupid, violent Antifa mob, George Soros funded, was coming and beating them over the head with clubs? Did you see this? In California, Berkeley? You're from California.
Yes.
Didn't you join in Berkeley?
Well, no, but well, I joined in Boonville, but sadly, California has become Mexifornia. I'm sorry. It's not the place that I was born.
California. Oh, my goodness. Now, you talk about home protection. Kook Jung just showed me yesterday when we were at the international meeting. He showed me this video that's going viral of this house that's made out of cement. They can actually make the house out of cement. It's very fast, very quick. It's actually very affordable. It's fireproof, weatherproof, and not bomb-proof, but it will basically stop small pistol rounds and even some rifle rounds. And it's basically a concrete house, and you build it like a normal house. They literally fill it with concrete. Okay, and it looks like a normal house because they cover it up with, whatever, dry sheetrock and all that kind of stuff. It's literally a concrete wall. What are the basic principles for home defense? Talk to us about home defense. How do you answer the door? How do you position and scan? Where your layout is. What's the most secure place in a home? What's the least secure home? Talk to us about a little bit about that.
Well, one of the security principles of protection is called hardening the target. So, and that's concentric rings of protection, or defenses. So you start with yourself, then your next layer, again, you're the protector of your family. Now in your home, you start from the outermost. Do you have a gate? Can you control the gate? If people can drive right up and come to your front door, then your front door is your outermost perimeter.
Yes.
So, and again, when you're answering the door, are you expecting someone?
Put those knobs up.
Are you expecting anybody to come? Definitely make sure that before you just open the door, you look to see who it is.
Who is it? Just don't open the damn door. Golly, these kids, I'm gonna just open up the door.
Exactly. Take a look. Who is it? Are you expecting anybody? Do you want to see them? And there's no shame in telling someone, I'm not interested, go away. You're not obligated to talk to someone who appears to be a salesman. Are they really a salesman? Or do they have, some other plans? And if that becomes apparent, it's a good idea not to stand there. Where in your home is a safe room? Where can you go within your home to, protect yourself and your family? Can you gather up your family? There's a trouble. Let's go. Let's go to the basement. That may be a safe place. Bathrooms generally are considered a good safe room in your home because typically they have ceramic tiles. There's plumbing. It's a smaller room, and it's a room that you can fortify. If your home has a walk-in closet, it's a good idea to actually consider that as a safe room, to fortify your closet door so that you can, a lot of times a walk-in closet has a little more room. You can store items in there for, if you have to hunker down for a long time. For wealthy families or celebrities, that's a plan that we would make for them. Why not have that plan for ourselves also to look?
Now, you do a lot of celebrities protection too in New York, you name it, because you're based out of New York. I know you've done a lot of celebrity protection. And of course, I heard some of the stories you guys were involved in concerts and all sorts of, insanity. Give us a taste of one of the stories that pops to your mind about, in terms of when you were protecting some celebrity or in that kind of environment, something that went down.
Well, you think about this. If you look at Princess Di as an example, what was the threat that Princess Di was fleeing from the night that she died? Tragically, it was paparazzi. What she was trying to obtain was privacy. So they were surrounded by paparazzi, and the paparazzi are so invasive.
Relentless.
The paparazzi, the word paparazzi is a coined term that the Italian media gave for the photographers. It's like a pest. They're a nuisance. The paparazzi, they're like one of those flies that buzz around and you can't do anything about.
Right.
And unfortunately for celebrities, they cherish privacy. Now they live in the spotlight, and sometimes they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. They want that attention. They thrive on that attention, but it's so invasive. And so there are times where they just have to, take extra measures to try to have privacy. For example, I had one of my clients for a number of years were. I won't mention their names, but they were twins, and they were under a lot of media scrutiny. Paparazzi followed them everywhere that they went, so we would sometimes have to use decoys. We would pull the Suburbans up, the security would jump out, the paparazzi would surround them, wait for the celebrities to come, and I would be driving them out of the garage in a low-profile car where they were hidden. So we would have to sometimes take extreme measures to afford them privacy that they could go somewhere without having this incredible scrutiny. And one thing, when you look at the media or the paparazzi, you also add in their stalkers or fans who are over the top. They're excessive. We study in our training programs. There was an actress named Claudia Schiffer who had a stalker, and it was so intense for her that she left the profession. And
she was a model, wasn't she?
Yes, and she moved to, she was an aspiring actress. She moved to an undisclosed location. Sadly, the stalker watched a TV program where a private investigator mentioned that he had found somebody's address. And so this stalker hired a private investigator. He found the location where this woman was living. And then he went to her location, knocked on the door. He actually did surveillance before to make sure that that's where she lived. He knocked on the door and then he killed her.
Wow, he killed her?
Yes.
Wow.
And that's the thing. Celebrities are faced with obsessive fans. Fans who, in our modern culture, they watch a movie, they watch a TV program, they come to the realization in their own mind that they now have a relationship with this person.
Right, right.
And they become obsessed, and they believe that this person was maybe meant to be for them. Like
yes, yes.
My company was involved with Sheryl Crow was performing at a concert venue in New York where we provide security, and she had a stalker. And we actually were instrumental. The stalker came to the back door of the venue. Our security personnel recognized that this was a stalker. Now, he was allegedly a Navy SEAL.
Wow.
It turned out he wasn't a Navy SEAL, but he was assigned with the SEALs. But, you know, here's an adversary, and you're told that this person is a Navy SEAL.
Boy.
So now you have to engage in this person, and we basically dealt with this person until the police came and they arrested him because there was an order of protection. He eventually had his day in court, and he turned to Sheryl and said, "I love you." And that's basically all he wanted to be able to do, and she ignored him, and the case, you know, disappeared. He disappeared. Nothing came of it. But, you know, celebrities are sometimes faced with these situations where there is an obsessive fan who now is targeting them. It's like Mark Chapman and John Lennon. Now, interesting, and when you study this case, Mark Chapman loved John Lennon. But that's why he killed him. You know? And hours before he was killed, he actually got his autograph and got a picture with him.
Oh my Lord!
And then a couple hours later, he killed him.
Now this is very important. Speaking of stalkers, because you know celebrities have to think about protection. They have to think about their safety. How much more the people of God, who are doing much greater work than the celebrities in terms of God's work, that we have to be thinking of our protection, our children, and our generations, our lineage that is going down and will be the inheritors of the kingdom. How much more important? This is critical. We'll be right back after the short break with more Jerry Hines and security preparedness. Stay with us.
I'm down here at the range today. I just learned a new technique from the father of the .44 Magnum, Elmer Keith, which is called shooting out of the notch, which allows you to make really long distance shots and still have an extremely precise sight picture. So I brought my CW9 car down, and with this little gun, we're gonna shoot this little munchkin at 200 yards up in the hills, applying this technique, and hopefully we'll make the shot. To apply this technique, instead of using the blade of the front sight lined up with the top of the rear sight, I'm going to take the dot of the front sight and raise it up so that it's out of the notch, but I'm still going to keep the front sight on my target. Bringing that front sight up like that is going to compensate for the bullet drop over that excessively long distance with just this little gun. So if applied right, we should be making contact. Let's see how it goes. I saw this shot, so I'm a little bit out of breath because you gotta run to make sure that is what I thought it was, and it was. So while making this shot, from that distance with these white dot sights, it literally would cover the entire target. You couldn't see what you were shooting. So using the Elmer Keith technique, you were able to raise it out of the back notch, I can't breathe, out of the back notch, allowing you to keep your accuracy, aim, and also still see the target, which is key because it was a hard shot, not gonna lie. But yeah, it went great, and Elmer knows what he's talking about. And for such a small gun to be able to take that hit, I'm very impressed with this. All right, guys, be sure to like and share, and I'll see you out on the range. That was awesome. Hey, can I try that one? Yeah, let's see with the 380. Does everybody have eyes and ears?
We are back. Welcome back to the King's Report. I'm your host, Hyungjin Seonmun, second King of Cheongguk, reporting live from the Cheongguk Palace here with Tim Elder and Jerry Haynes, talking about security and preparedness. Now, we have two major incidents the stories that we're breaking today. Number one, of course, the terror incident in London, and number two, the missiles that have now flown over again, an ICBM nuclear cable missile that has flown over Japan. This is now the second in the last month. Okay, now obviously the first level of awareness, of course, I would think in my mind is don't be in those kind of countries and or those kind of big cities as a place. But there's a lot of people who, for whatever reason, are in those scenarios. What can they do in the scenarios that are now presenting themselves before them in the UK or in, they have to use the subway every day, or in Hokkaido, Japan? What can they do to begin the process of empowerment, not just sitting around waiting for, like sheep, for the government to do something? What can they do to begin the process of preparedness and security?
You've highlighted most of it. It's self-preparedness is worst case scenario. Honestly, terrorism finds its way anywhere. In the U.S., any state, rural areas, it can happen anywhere. The first, is to have survival supplies, absolutely. Yeah, and you have to think about what if something happens, what's going to happen. The loss of power, loss of communications. For some folks, the loss of knowledge, what's going on, is going to freak them out. So you have to prepare to accept fate. You have to prepare to understand, should something happen, it's happening. You have to acknowledge it, you have to accept it. And then you go to your plan A. Okay, I have water. If you don't have certain supplies, get them quick. I've been through Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Sandy, and where I lived, north of New York City, we were out of power for 6 days. But I was prepared. I had a generator. I had a wood stove, so I had heat. I had gas, hot water, and I had food supplies. You know, today's society, people live out of their refrigerators. They hand to mouth. Quite honestly, we're 9 meals away from anarchy. If people go 9 meals without food, they're going to start freaking out.
We've seen that in the hurricane, people looting and breaking buildings, property, burglary, all that stuff.
Yeah.
No, and well, some people do it for selfish, but if people go without food for a long period, they're going to start looking for food.
Yeah.
So when you're keeping a supply of food, you have to be prepared to defend your supplies for your family.
You need to defend. Now, what about all this Facebook craze where people are actually putting so much information on Facebook, literally putting it out for the public view? Show them their whole house, everything. It's like...
No, we live in a very open society now. Social media, you know, I'm surprised. I use social media for marketing, to let people know what we're doing.
There's pluses and minuses, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it has its values for information. You can also have private groups, and that may be something that you set up with your friends. But you have to expect in certain disasters or an outbreak, riots, there may be a loss of power, may loss of communications.
I mean, a stalker could literally look at your Facebook page, check out your environment, and you know, all the pictures you're putting up, you name it.
Well, and people check in where they're going, where away. You know, like I took my family on vacation, but I posted our photos after we came back.
Yeah, after you came back.
You know, so
exactly.
don't
and
put them while you're out there.
Some people turn on the location device, and you can tell literally where that person is right now. It's insane. You're letting little people track you, giving their addresses. It's completely insane.
No, and also, yeah, you don't want to post a video or photos of all your supplies, because then you're letting everybody know, I have all this.
These are the guns I have.
Come and get it.
Now that's another level of protection. Having some level of concealment, even when you have a concealed carry, you conceal that for a level of protection, so the predator doesn't understand what's going on. Right? And like we know that predators operate in the dark, in concealment. How important is it, for example, to have a proper lighting around your residence?
Well, absolutely. And I tell people, I teach a class on physical security, so one-day overview. Lighting is cheap, and it, you know, most invaders, most home invaders, they don't like the light. They want the darkness. So you want to light up your home. Now, you don't necessarily want to light it up like, you know, it's a billboard or something like that. What I have, when you walk into my house, when you walk up, the lights come on through motion.
Motion detector.
And that may startle some people, and that's a deterrent there.
That's a serious deterrent, isn't it?
And part of security, as we call it, the 4 or 5 Ds, you want to have a deterrent. You want to be able to detect problems. So that's why motion sensors that turn lights on detect someone approaching. It is a deterrent. Light is a big deterrent. Having well-lit lights.
Ooh, that's a spiritual message right there.
Yeah, and then also a delay. If somebody wanted to say, do something, get in and get out, anything that will possibly cause them a delay may ward them off. And then the possibility of detaining them. So, and if people know that they may be faced with a harder adversary, they may turn to an easier adversary. So you want to harden your home, make it more difficult for, say, a home invader to come, or in times of trouble, if the people are coming to try to steal food from you, to make it more difficult so they go to an easier target. So to put up signs, even quite honestly, signs that say alarm system, that alone will deter some people, whether there's an alarm system or not.
Beware of
dogs.
Right?
You know, dogs, or even a little yap dog that barks like crazy, can call attention to somebody.
Right.
And if there's too much barking or too much noise, there is a possibility that some invaders will find an easier target. They'll just go to another home where, you know, it looks easier. Situational awareness, also what we call surveillance detection. If somebody's going to do something, it's likely that they're going to surveil you. If a car goes back and forth
Yes.
several times and slows down, and you make notice of that, so sometimes, I may go out on my porch if a car's slowing down, let them, I see you. So now they know I know. So that's part of your defenses too, to let people know, I see you, you're not getting away with something. So in that alone, some people may look for an easier target, where somebody is oblivious. They're on their porch, buried in their smartphone, and the person sees this person's not even aware, doesn't even see me.
Yeah.
I can easily approach them, but when you're there and somebody slows down, they're looking and you're looking back at them, now they know they've been made. They've been observed.
Yes.
So that may, so that's part of also being aware of your surroundings. So you have situation awareness, you have surveillance detection. You're looking for, are there surveillors who are looking at you? Are they planning something?
Now these are critical. For example, you could say in Japan they got these missiles found. What the heck can they do? They can't control these missiles. They don't have things to shoot them down. But you can start doing this. You can start changing your perspective. Just what Jerry's talking about right now. You can start. This is empowering to even think about these things. Okay, maybe you can't control the Hwasong 12 that's flying over you with ICBM, that launched by Kim Jong-un. But you can control your environment. You control your mentality, your mind state, your children, the people you love. You can start talking about networking. You can start preparing, just getting a bottle of water or a gallon of water every time you go to the supermarket and getting a canned food every time. You don't know what will happen, but small ways you can empower yourself and stop feeling helpless, that you have to rely on a government that constantly tells you something and that's totally is not prepared for you and has been proven to not be prepared for you. And just by talking about the dialogue, making a YouTube channel, just saying, hey, in America there's this thing called prepping and millions of people do this. Maybe we should start this dialogue in Japan, in Hokkaido right now.
Also, if you live in an urban area, that may not be safe if there's a major catastrophe there. So one plan is find someplace you can go to, do you have a summer house, a summer cabin, a location that maybe multiple families can go to and share? And the plan is, if trouble hits, particularly in urban areas, my office is in Midtown Manhattan. I live north of the city, but I have a place to go to. And the plan for my family is head north, get out of Dodge. As soon as a problem, now when 9/11 happened, I went in and I went to Ground Zero, but I went there to help. So it was different. So a lot of people were leaving, and I was going in, and went through roadblocks and things. I went there as a first responder to help because I was an EMT and I wanted to go and help, and actually went there. But so there are some that have those kind of skills that can help. But if you live in a certain area, and as soon as a problem hits, you need to have a plan. What do we do? If you're asking that at that moment, it's too late. You're not prepared.
It's way too late.
Yeah. What do we do? It's too late.
Oh
you need to say, let's go. Plan B. In my garage are bins, big bins with clothing. 1, 2, 3. They're in the car and we're gone. Now, fortunately, I have a place to go to where there's a lot of that already there. If I'm not able to go, if for some reason you're not able to go, then to have supplies where you are for survival. Because in some types of incident, we're talking about nuclear, you may want to shelter in place. Stay in place and not move for a while until the dust clears. So in that case, you have to make sure you have supplies, ready supplies. You're able to protect your home. Because again, within a day or two, people are going to be foraging for food. They're going to be looking. I need to eat.
What was our statistic, Tim? Within 72 hours, 90% of the radioactivity is 90% less harmful, right? Within 3 days, 72 hours. So it's a shocking statistic, but you have to hunker down. You can't be running around after there's a bomb blast to try to check things out. You're going to get radiated.
I mean, one of our plans when we do tabletop exercises where we say, what if, so what? What if this happens, so what can I do about it? We're not being crass by saying what if, so what. In each scenario that you create, and every person can do that, especially sanctuary members. What if this happens in this area?
And it's not paranoid to have some basic level survival instinct. My God, these people are just trying to make you feel like you're wacky for even thinking about being prepared and not trusting faithfully the archangelic pharaoh government that constantly tells you that they're prepared but never is prepared.
It's funny, I've been into positive thinking for years. My wife sometimes says, you're the most negative thinker because you're always thinking, what if? What if this scenario happens? What if this... But part of positive thinking, is to think positive about negative situations.
Yes.
You have to accept fate. And you said it earlier in the program, wishful thinking. You can't wish this away from us. We have to prepare for it. And then when it happens, you have to accept fate, that it's happening. Okay, it's happening. And then you already have a plan, and you go about it. You accept that it's happened. Okay, now I have to deal with it. So what if, so what? What if this happens, so what do I do about it? So what families can do in any environment can think, what if this happens?
Yes.
And then do a tabletop. Plan it out. Okay, where are we? Okay, we got nukes flying over. A nuke goes off. Okay, do we move right away or do we hunker down?
Well, that's the important point. Talk to your kids about this. Tabletop. Like, say, what if, kids? What would you do? This isn't, like, they would be interested in that. They actually would be interested in that conversation.
You know what, if you're persistent, I told my daughter, and she goes, Dad, I get it. If you know, the brown stuff hits the fan, head north. I got it. I know the plan. You know, because, you know, they don't want to accept that. Okay, Dad, okay, yeah, you're being paranoid, you're being over the top. You know what? That's also parental instinct. And
that's a fatherly instinct.
That's my responsibility.
Yes.
Too. I have to take that responsibility in my family. Family, my job is to keep you safe. My job is to protect you. So if we're scattered, we don't have communications, here's the plan. Go to this location, and then we'll regroup there, and then we can go from there. So get to this place. So it's a plan.
Excellent words of wisdom from the security expert. We'll be right back after a short break. Stay with us.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report in our final segment here with Jerry Hines talking about these important issues. Now, Jerry, talk about the different levels of awareness, the core, how you get that security sheepdog mentality into your core. You were talking about even the sheepdog, the mentality. What does it do? It puts itself between the wolf and sheep. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important for each person. First of all, I mentioned earlier, we have the right for self-existence. So one is that basic defense, and we have different minds. And part of survival training and preparing for worst case scenarios is to prepare, our mind. Now we have our conscious mind, where we think. Then we have our subconscious mind, and then we have our being. So as a protector, we try to instill into protectors that you have to, you take information in your conscious mind, and then you instill it where it becomes automatic, and that's your subconscious mind. But then you also have to instill it into the core of your existence, your being.
Yes.
So honestly, in a survival mindset, that's the bare minimum mindset that we have to survive anything. A fight, warfare, protecting our family. So there's several mindsets. One is survival mindset, and that's recognizing that you may be injured in a fight, but you can fight. You have to stay in the fight. Don't give up. So as a firearms instructor, we teach if you're injured, if you have your dominant hand and you have your support hand, if your dominant hand is injured, you have to be able to use your firearm, say, with your non-dominant hand, your support hand. A semi-automatic firearm, you may have to reload it one-handed. You can do it. We teach methods how to do it. So part of that is that survival mindset. Stay in the fight. Don't give up. You're injured. So what? You can fight. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. So in an emergency situation, whether it's weather-related or terrorism, you may be injured. Guess what? You got to stay in the fight. You have to have that mindset. Don't give up. Then there's the warrior mindset. So people are knocking on your door, they're pounding on the door, they're coming in. Now wishful thinking is, I hope they go away. But you know what? You have to accept fate. You know what? They might come in. Guess what? Now you have to change. You may be fearful, and that's normal. You have to change fear into anger and say, you know what? Not today. Not today. It's not happening today. No one's going to take my life or my family's life. It's not happening. But that can't come from your conscious mind. And even your subconscious mind, one layer back, you want to train so it's there. You have to instill this mindset into the core of your existence, your basic survival, and your preparedness to fight. Now, generally, I'm not a fighter, but guess what? You come after me or my family, you're going to get all you got. I'm going to come at you with everything. I'm going to come after you, but you have to change your survival mindset now into a warrior mindset.
Yes.
To be, come on, let's do it. It's you and me. And, I'm going to come out the victor. And I tell people I'm a winner because I choose to be a winner and I refuse to be a loser. So in firearms, I say, in business, I'm into win-win. Hey, let's all win. Let it be good for everyone. But guess what? It comes to survival or in a firefight, using firearms to defend myself, it's win-lose.
It's win-lose, no win-win.
And I tell people, I have rule number one.
That's right.
I don't lose. That's not an acceptable consideration.
Yeah.
So, but you have to instill that into the core of your existence. You have to tell people, you have to put it into your being. No, you're not taking my life. You're not taking my family's life. It ain't happening. But that can't come from your conscious thought or even your subconscious thought. It has to come out of the core of your existence. But you have to put it there.
Yes.
You have to instill that into your being. So, the King's Report, you're constantly, you're shouting at the top of your lungs, be prepared, be prepared. So people have to take that to heart. They have to put that into their being. Another mindset is a protector's mindset. That sheepdog mentality. I'm going to protect my family. I have to protect myself. Now, I may put myself in harm's way. I may stand between my family and the wolf. And I take that, I purposely, and I have the capacity of using violence to counter violence. You have to accept that. And that's where a lot of the sheep, they don't have that capacity. So there's going to be some people that aren't able to convert from being a sheep to a sheepdog.
Right.
But we have to recognize when it comes to our family, we have to be that way. I'm the father. I'm the king of my household.
Yes.
And I'm going to defend my kingdom and my kingdom, and I'm going to defend my family.
Now that's such an important mentality, especially Korea, Japan, where they're literally under nuclear war. They feel totally powerless, helpless, and at the behest of the federal government that's constantly always telling them wrong info. But you can start in small places. Change your mentality. Start networking. Start preparing in small ways. That makes a massive difference. Start talking about this at church, in the communities. Start talking with your pastor. Start talking about with your friends, your family. Ask them questions. Do a tabletop discussion that Jerry talking about. Just even do an assessment of your house. Where's the weak points? Where's the strong points? Where's your bug out location? Can you get to another place if you have to? These kind of things, of course, I know the sanctuary people are already, thinking about that. They're already doing that. But you can extend that beyond sanctuary and include other like-minded, able-minded people that are already moved by the Holy Spirit to already have a survival instinct and to know the spirit of times we're in. I mean, you don't have to be a brain scientist to have some discernment in this time. And they can connect with us. And God can use you to be able to witness on the greatness of the kingdom that is coming and to give them some real hope through this tribulation, which is not centered on wishful thinking, fanciful thinking, daydreaming, and Korean dramas, but that is focused in reality. To get through, to connect back with your core, that survival instinct that God gave you, your right to self-preservation, to the gift that God wanted to inherit to all humanity from the beginning of time and now finally can with Christ's kingdom that is coming. Folks, we got to be awake. We got to be prepared step by step. Just take a step today to do something. Just start talking with a friend. Just go out and get a small survival kit. Just go out and get some pepper spray. Whatever it is, you're starting the process into this world of becoming a leader, a sheepdog that can help and save the sheep and lead them to God's kingdom. Thank you for joining us this morning on the King's Report. There's so much going on, so much insanity, but we are in His hands. But we also have our 5%. We have to also do our part so that God can utilize us as His hands and feet in this world. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock with Tim Elder on the King's Report.
5 o'clock.
I'm sorry. 5 o'clock. Did I say 6? 5 o'clock with Tim Elder on the King's Report. And we'll see you this weekend, Sunday service, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. God bless, Godspeed, and may His kingdom come.
You got to move.